Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take that fire hose of information you send us and, well, we try to distill it into pure, surprising insight. Today, we're tackling a paradox that I think defines the professional experience for millions of young people right now.
It's the ultimate economic tension, isn't it? I mean, you read the headlines and corporate profits are soaring, GDP is robust. By all the traditional metrics, the economy is doing great.
But then you talk to a Gen Z or millennial professional, and by 2030, that's going to be almost three-quarters of the entire global workforce. And for them, that career ladder they were promised, it seems to have just vanished.
Exactly. You finally land that entry-level job and you think, okay, here we go, the starting line. But instead of the American dream, it feels less like a career and more like a bad relationship.
A bad relationship, that's a perfect way to put it. You're constantly asked to give more hours, more skills, more commitment. But for what? Less progression, fewer resources.
And, the numbers really back up that feeling of being frozen out. The overall national unemployment rate might be around 4.0%, which sounds okay. But for recent college grads, that rate is a lot higher. It's hovering closer to 4.8% as of mid-2025. This isn't just a little friction. It feels like a structural blockage right at the starting gate.
So we've taken a huge stack of sources, major global workforce surveys, economic modeling from think tanks like Goldman Sachs and, real-world sentiment. And our mission today is to figure out why this traditional path hasn't just stalled, but has fundamentally crumbled. We're looking at a structural failure, not a lack of ambition.
I think we should start with the macro picture, because the source of this whole tension is a disconnect that it fundamentally changes the rules of the game.
Okay, let's unpack that. How can the economy be booming while new workers are just getting frozen out? It all starts with this idea of jobless growth.
It sounds like a contradiction, right? But it just means the economy is expanding without the new jobs we'd historically expect to see.
Huh.
All the GDP and profit growth isn't being fueled by mass hiring anymore. It's being fueled by massive productivity improvements and capital efficiency. And the big one right now, of course, is all the speculation around AI and automation tools.
So the economy is generating immense value. Companies are hitting record numbers on their balance sheets, but they're doing it with technology. The machine is making the money, not the new hire.
That is exactly why Goldman Sachs economists are calling this the new normal. They pointed out that even after the dot-com bust, GDP growth bounced back way earlier than employment did. That set a precedent. And now it's just standard operating procedure.
And that efficiency, that immediately creates what we call the K-shaped economy.
Right, just visualize the letter K. That top arm is shooting straight up. That's your soaring profits, stock valuations, conditions for the highest earners.
The owners of the capital, the senior execs.
The senior execs, the engineers managing the automation. And then you have the bottom arm of the K.
The one going down.
That's the descending line. It represents worsening conditions for pretty much everyone else, especially new people entering the market. It looks fantastic on today's balance sheet, but, economists are warning that an economy built on consumers who don't have jobs, well, eventually that runs out of road.
It's a short-term boost that creates really deep long-term instability. And we have a mic drop stat here that just proves this is happening right now. It's the missing first rung on the career ladder.
Entry-level job postings have dropped approximately 35% across the board since early 2023.
35%. That's not a dip.
No, that's the entry gate to the professional world just shrinking dramatically, shutting down in some cases.
And that one statistic tells the whole story. If you can't get your first job, you can't build the skills for your second job. Which brings us to the biggest long-term threat of AI. It's not just replacement. It's what some sources are calling the tacit knowledge lobotomy.
This is where the whole thing gets insidious. When we talk about knowledge, most people think of explicit knowledge, the stuff in a book, the code you can write down, a manual. Tacit knowledge is the opposite.
It's the stuff you can't Google.
Precisely. It's the expertise you absorb just by being there. It's watching a senior engineer handle a crisis and learning not just what they did, but how they did it. The nuance, the intuition, it's apprenticeship.
And if you look at what's being automated first, the first draft emails, reading documents, basic customer service, that's exactly the grunt work where juniors traditionally learn those tacit skills just by being around it.
We've basically severed the transmission line. The economic modeling is sounding some serious alarm bells here. They're arguing we're engaging in socially excessive automation. They don't mean automation is bad, but that companies are automating tasks where the long-term cost of losing that human training ground is actually higher than the immediate financial benefit.
A knowledge debt. Okay, let's make that real for the listener. What does a knowledge debt actually look like?
It's a system where long-run growth eventually collapses because nobody actually knows how to do the complex, messy work anymore. Think about it. When the current experts, the boomers, older Gen X retire, the generation that's supposed to replace them will have spent their formative years prompting chatbots instead of solving real chaotic problems.
So we're trading long-term institutional resilience for a quick quarterly earnings boost. That's the definition of short-term gain for long-term pain. The CEO from Bridgewater Associates noted this exact thing. He asked, "We are well positioned to replace a lot of the basic tasks with machines, but what does that then mean to talent development over the long period of time?" And the implication is nobody's really prepared for that gap.
And this structural problem, it feeds directly into the daily friction we see between managers and new hires, the whole soft skills standoff.
Right, that's the constant complaint, isn't it? Gen Z is unprepared, unmotivated, unprofessional. It feels like employers want a unicorn that comes pre-trained, but they refuse to build a stable.
It's an impossible ask. They're screaming about a soft skills, gap communication, leadership, empathy, which, ironically, are now the most valuable skills because the technical skills are what AI can do.
And the irony just gets deeper when you look at what young professionals actually want. The sources show 86% of Gen Z, 85% of millennials, they cite soft skills as vital for their careers. They know they need them, but the company has basically resigned its role as an educator.
The data on what managers do with their time is stark. They spend nearly 40% of it just putting out fires on admin tasks. They spend only 13% of their time actually developing or mentoring their people. They expect plug-and-play experts right out of college.
And the fallout from that is stunning. 6 in 10 employers report firing recent Gen Z hires shortly after they start, citing motivation or professionalism, which just reinforces the market's demand for entry-level candidates who somehow already have 3 to 5 years of experience. It's a vicious cycle.
And we have to remember the context of the pandemic here, too. Those critical formative years were forced onto Zoom. That over here and learn mentorship, the osmosis period, it was just completely cut off.
So if we connect all this, we're seeing the employee response to this broken contract. If the company sees the employee as a transaction, the employee is going to do the same. The corporate ladder is still there, I guess, but nobody wants to climb it.
The ambition hasn't vanished, but the definition of success has radically changed. For Gen Z, success is not climbing to a senior leadership position. Only 6% say that's their primary goal. They've swapped that corporate pinnacle for a personalized trifecta: money, meaning, and well-being.
They realize the traditional path demands too much sacrifice for a payoff that's not even guaranteed anymore. So they prioritize work-life balance, learning. Those are consistently in the top reasons Gen Z chooses a job. They are working on their skills. 7 in 10 Gen Zs do it weekly. But they want managers to be guides, mentors, not just taskmasters.
And purpose is absolutely critical. For job satisfaction, it matters to 89% of Gen Z. But if they can't find meaning in the job, and let's be honest, not every job is inherently meaningful, they pivot.
They treat the job as a means to an end. They get financial security, they get work-life balance, and then they use their time and their money to make a difference outside of work. The job is just a resource allocation device, not their core identity.
And this push for well-being is driven by very real documented stress. Only 52% of Gen Zs rate their mental well-being as good. Their main stressors are long hours, no recognition, toxic workplaces. Mental health is Gen Z's second highest societal concern, right after the cost of living. They're choosing peace over the corner office.
This skepticism about the whole white-collar promise is having major ripple effects, especially on how people see higher education. The white-collar promise was a lie, so Gen Z is pivoting to the blue-collar.
The cost and the con. Well, the questionable return on investment are leading nearly a third of Gen Z and millennials to just opt out of higher ed entirely. 40% of Gen Z cite the high tuition, plus this skepticism that the degree even gives them the practical experience they need.
And in a really powerful twist, that's fueling a surge towards vocational training, towards the trades. Young people are flocking to these areas. They want lower debt, immediate income, and the security of knowing that AI can't, fix a toilet or wire a house.
It's a rational economic choice.
Yeah.
But we have to add the reality check from the sources. Higher education still correlates with higher financial security. 55% of degree holders feel financially secure versus only 40% of those with vocational training. So the payoff is shrinking, but it's not totally gone.
And what's really fascinating here is that this crisis is not equal. If you just look at the raw unemployment numbers, young men are getting hit the hardest.
The numbers are stark, absolutely. In Q2 2025, 9.1% of men aged 20 to 24 were unemployed. For women, it was 7.2%. That's a big divergence. For young men, the college payoff looks basically dead grads have similar unemployment rates to non-grads. This is partly because they're concentrated in AI-vulnerable sectors.
But on the other side of that, women are reporting significantly higher levels of mental distress and burnout. It's driven by this perfect storm, the gender pay gap, caregiving responsibilities, and workplaces that just ignore biological health stressors.
But this is where the sources introduce a really crucial idea, the honesty paradox.
Mm.
While women report higher distress, we have to wonder if we're only seeing half the story.
You mean the distress is equal, but the reporting isn't?
Precisely. Experts suggest women face less stigma, so they might be more willing to report their struggles honestly. Young men, who are more likely to say they're thriving, also show higher rates of things like substance misuse, hidden signs of deep stress. It suggests they are significantly underreporting their struggles.
That's a powerful point. So the structural economic problem is hitting young men hardest with job loss, while the social and corporate structures are compounding the distress for young women.
It just confirms that the entire infrastructure, economic, educational, social, is failing the next generation on multiple diverging fronts.
So if we pull all of this together, what does this mean for you navigating this world today? The structure of work has just changed faster than society has adapted.
What's really fascinating is that the social contract has fundamentally shifted. It's gone from a relationship based on mutual development, on loyalty, to a simple short-term transaction. Employers want AI-level efficiency and pre-trained experts for entry-level pay. And employees navigating this unstable environment, they're prioritizing their mental health and treating the job as just a means to get resources.
You are navigating a labor market that is changing faster than for any generation before you. The value of expertise is simultaneously rising and being challenged. If continuous learning is the key to staying afloat, then here's a thought to mull over long after this deep dive ends. If AI co-pilots can compensate for missing skills and democratize expert performance today, making an average worker highly productive right away, what happens to your incentive to pursue genuine, deep, tacit learning tomorrow? Will that quick augmentation eventually sabotage the pursuit of long-term excellence and true mastery? Something to think about.